Oscar-winning actor, producer, and director Kelsey Grammer taking viewers on an inside look at 8 key battles for America that left indelible marks on our great nation. Here to discuss his brand new Fox Nation series, the host of Kelsey Grammer's Historic Battles for America, Kelsey Grammer. What a pleasure it is to be able to talk to you, sir.
Likewise. Thanks, Dana. Good to see you.
So tell me a little bit about your interest in this. I felt that looking at a couple of the episodes, your patriotism really shines through.
Well, I appreciate that. I have a long and sort of abiding appreciation for what people have done for this country, especially our servicemen throughout history, particularly George Washington. And, you know, it does seem to me to be sort of woefully lacking in our curriculum these days. A lot of kids I meet don't really know who George Washington is, and that seems impossible to me and unlikely. And I know we're even sort of like vilifying them now for having been men of their time, and yet they were men of great vision, I think. And so we're doing our best to represent that and the heroism that they are notable for, and the fact that they had such great vision and that their vision still sticks in this day and age.
Some of the battles include Bunker Hill and the Battle of Brooklyn, the Battle of Yorktown, the Battle of the Alamo. Now, these are phrases that people might hear and sort of remember. What's interesting to me is to talk to somebody like you, who you have an interest in history, and you go back and you work on a project like this. And did you feel like you kept learning something new about those battles?
Yeah, well, you know what I tend to learn is always the sort of the scope and the size of what they achieved, the commitment it took, the actual human toll that was part of the sacrifice that these men made, and the men who survived afterward continued to make. Washington's tenacity and commitment to the idea of this being a free nation, you know, that respected individual rights, was a one-off kind of guy. His stick-to-itiveness is breathtaking, and for him to really sort of single-handedly endure through what he did, and my kids are screaming.
Well,
but
I'm sure
for him to endure
Go ahead.
what he did, and you know, against all sorts of odds, we had you know, a third of the country wasn't interested, a third of the country didn't care, and the other third was willing to die for it. And I mean, maybe that's not much different today. I don't know.
And we don't know. But what's interesting also about George Washington is that he was willing to walk away, right? Some people thought that he could become president for life, and he said no. And I think that's remarkable when you think back to the founding fathers and their willingness to stick to the idea of a country.
Well, they didn't want any potentates. I always love the word potentates. It's like they disavowed the idea that we should have a potentate, that people should be in power for a long time, because power does corrupt. Their vision for Congress, for instance, and this is just me, you know, blowing off steam, was 2 years. 2 years to serve. Some guy from the neighborhood went, and then he came back in 2 years, and another guy went, or another gal went, whatever it was. But this 30, 35, 40 years in the same place in Washington, D.C., well, no wonder they were, anyway, having trouble.
Were there any other people that you were able to delve deep into and understand besides George Washington that might be interesting for our viewers who are going to watch this and can maybe apply some of those lessons to today's world?
Yeah, well, I think General Grant, Ulysses S. Grant, certainly. I didn't really realize the breadth of his dedication, and even in the face of the fact that he had, you know, some personal, what they'd like to call demons these days. I mean, he drank too much, but he would also go on the wagon for a while, and he dedicated himself to making a couple of very unpleasant decisions in order to fulfill the promise of freedom for everybody, and it was his continued commitment to that through the war and afterward in his presidency that actually, I think, pulled us out. And he's an extraordinary guy. And his autobiography is recognized as being one of the great autobiographies. And I know the dedication in it is man proposes, God disposes, which is pretty pretty interesting.
President Bush always said that was one of the best presidential memoirs that he had read. And of course, he spent several years after his presidency in New York, and he was very sick. He had cancer, and he was able to finish that book, and it's such an important part of our history. One thing I did want to ask you about is if you think about today's battles, for example, we are watching in real time the war in Ukraine. And we are able to get that information so quickly. In a lot of these battles that you cover, news even of the victory didn't reach the rest of the soldiers for months afterwards. How do you think about that today?
Well, honestly, I do think, and then you guys are part of the news cycle thing. The news cycle is so in our face continually that, honestly, if somebody falls down a ditch in Tasmania, we covered on it here today. 100 years ago, that might have made a newspaper somewhere and said, "Oh boy, rescued from this and that." But you would have heard about it a week later. It is really not in our realm to be concerned with so many things around the world. Ukraine being an exception, however. And of course, I have some Russian friends that live in LA, and I have some Ukrainian friends that live in LA. I have a friend whose mother is Ukrainian, but she won't say it in Russia right now. So there are a lot of difficult issues that go back to this eastern edge of Ukraine. And unfortunately, this guy has overdone it, Mr. Putin.
I understand that you're a descendant of General Israel Putnam. I understand from the Battle of Bunker Hill, and that's one of the episodes in this series. Tell me a little bit about that, and did you learn anything more about your family ties?
Well, I actually have seen a sort of a little breakdown now it comes from my grandmother's side. She had a cousin that was named Putnam. So that's where that all connects. But I had a great history teacher named Kitty Repke. Now, maybe this is the reason I honor history quite so much. She spoke about George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and all the Big Ten, whatever, Thomas Jefferson, as if she'd known them personally. So that when she gave a lecture in high school, this is in 10th grade, I guess, it was as if you were walking around with these guys, and Kitty Repke was talking with them while we were in her class, and so she really brought it to life. And the Bunker Hill, of course, Breed's Hill thing. When I first read that we were going to cover Bunker Hill, I said, well, it's really Breed's Hill, but I know that from Kitty. But I was surprised to hear the heroism of the particular gentleman that died. That was so helpful to both to our cause, the cause of freedom. Who was the doctor to so many of the British generals as well. It's really interesting.
You've had just an amazing career, and history is really his story. It is about storytelling. And is this in some way allowing you to give back and to to try to encourage people to learn more about their history, especially like those kids that you were just talking about?
Yeah, well, I have. They're definitely getting lessons on this stuff, but that's in my control. I have such a deep reverence and a deep faith in this country, and in its ideals, and in its goals. Yes, the execution sometimes may have fallen short, but we're still working at it. This is still an experiment. It's an ongoing thing. It's not over. The people that want to kill it, I have no ability to traffic with them. I want to find some way to bring us all to a respect for our country. And I think if we respect our history, that is something we can achieve.
Yes, democracy is a participatory sport. You can't sit on the sidelines. You have to protect it. My last question for you is just one about this great new technology that is allowing creativity to flourish, and streaming services like Fox Nation. Just get your thoughts maybe on where the industry is headed.
Well, it is interesting that so much of the traditional broadcast industry is kind of been digitalized and chopped up and sent away. We are in this streaming world, and I think it's actually having a great deal of success. Certainly people get to cherry pick a little more what they actually are interested in seeing, which may or may not be a good idea. I think it could be driving us apart a little more even, because it's so easy to just find an opinion that echoes your own, and real information doesn't actually come at you. But I actually think you guys are doing a better job at that than some of the others.
Well, we are thrilled to have you be a part of it, and we thank you for taking time to do this interview. And I know you're busy on the set there, and we look forward to that project coming out as well. Kelsey Grammer, thank you.
Thanks, Dana.
And go check out Kelsey Grammer's Historic Battles for America. It's right here on Fox Nation.